Welcome to the show today. It's an extraordinary show because I've never, ever, ever been told before that I can go out into the weeds and talk about anything that I want. Good luck for any of you who wish to follow this conversation. It's not a conversation. I'm just going to be talking for as long as I want because that's what's been requested. So I'm going to go over a little geopolitics, and I'm going to go into some science. And why does the science matter? Because it's the scientists are trying to destroy us every single chance they get. And right now they're working on the complete destruction of our atmosphere, the seven heavens, the seven atmospheres above us, and they're trying to kill us all. And there's no justification for it. And if you ask people why they're doing this, which I have, they look at you with a blank stare. And that's because there's no soul and spirit in those people. Those aren't people. Those are animals in human bodies. And that's what we have come to. There's too many people on the earth. The spiritual world has all been cleaned out of every person it can. Every great spiritual being is down here. Many of them are in bodies of nonverbal autistic children. That's the reason that 10% of them are savants that are the smartest people on the earth. And because of their morality in the past, they can come down and they take on suffering. That's what they do. And so this is an age of suffering. And Rudolf Steiner said that we would destroy ourselves through egotism. Look at politics. Every single person in D.C. that's been there for 2 terms knows you go to certain people, the clearinghouse, and you get USAID money, and you join a board, you create a board, and you get money, infinite amounts of money. Like, how about the $375 billion given to the EPA when they didn't have any more places to spend the money? For instance, we've spent trillions already on climate change. Where is the evidence? Who got the money? Where did it go? And have we seen any changes? And what do they don't have any goals. What are the changes? What's the climate change? No one asks any questions these days because people are so stupid from being poisoned in America, by the poisons they put in all of the city water, or by the poisons they put in the air, or by the fact that every human being is hypersensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. That's just a fact. So how do you think you can justify racing forward into a technological age where the father of it, Nikola Tesla, said that he wanted to turn us all into automatons? So these are the kind of things that concern me because they're bigger questions. It isn't just the question of why every single person in Washington District of Crime seems to be completely compromised and a traitor, and they are fighting against the U.S. Constitution and we the people. Why does it seem that way? There's justifications for that. Some of those people are fearful, some are stupid, some are evil, some aren't human, some are possessed. And so we have to break it down and take a look at all these things. But what we need to do is make sure that, to begin with, we do not fall prey to what any egotist wants. Vicious, mean, evil egotists want you to fear them. It is your fear that they eat. That's what you take good things and you turn them evil. There's no such thing as being born evil, and there's no such thing as completely evil. But evil tries to get the good and turns it to the bad. So in D.C., Washington, D.C., we're supposed to be looking after all the people. And, if we look at what the ancient Greeks said, only a philosopher king can actually be a politician. Someone who's been successful in life, has shown throughout all their life they have great morality, that they're successful in every part of their life. They have an art of life, as it is called. And then they go and work for free for the collective. And by the way, there's no democracy in America. I don't know. I just can't even believe I heard Trump's use the word democracy, that he's going to continue our democracy. There is no democracy, and anyone who thinks there is should not be allowed to run for a political office, period. Why? Because they don't understand anything. They're like AOC, whose campaign manager, we've known for over 4 years, I think it's been, AOC's manager was a Colombian invader. He's from Colombia. He's a migrant, as they call them. He's an undocumented illegal. And remember, she paid $80,000 to this guy, but she was complaining earlier she didn't have enough money to pay her rent in D.C., but now she doesn't complain. Why? Because she's been there long enough to know the ropes. How you get money for free. You simply become the head or a board member, a paid board member, on some made-up board, doing some made-up work in a place that no one can check, and you pocket the money. Look at Stacey Abrams. Look at Act Blue. Look at the list is so long, but no one is being convicted. If you can't convict the guy the people who run Act Blue, then you've not made it through law school, I guess. You don't even know how to make a proper motion before a court, but of course the courts are corrupt also. So let me just explain something. To my knowledge, and this may sound crazy, but I get to go out in the weeds today, there ain't no proof of any nuclear bombs. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were completely fraudulent. We have tons of proof on that, okay? So when you show me a true atomic explosion, which I have never seen one, not on film, not going back and doing the research as much as I could, we have ICBMs, but they do not have multiple warhead nuclear bombs on them. That's just completely stupid. So when Trump just said, and this is my big message today, the rest is all out in the weeds. You could take it or leave it. But this is the most important thing. Why did Trump just say overnight that he's thinking of putting 35,000 American troops out of the 160,000 we have defending Europe, who is now our enemy, openly, and states that we are, because we won't go to war. Trump won't go to war in Ukraine, and most Americans don't want us to go to war anywhere. So they want to. Trump says, pay up your bill for NATO, or we're not defending you. So in one move, he's doing actually 3 or 4, 5, 6 things at once. He's considering 35,000 American NATO troops. These are Americans there for the purpose of our stupid NATO treaty, which should be canceled immediately. It should be canceled because of fraud and because the other parties involved in the NATO treaty have all abnegated and voided the agreement. So we need to get out of it. We tried to have Steiner the other day when he thought that he was going to get the contract for all of the resources in Ukraine that Trump was trying to get. Well, Trump was just repeating the agreement that Zelensky already signed with Steiner in January. So, and there was a previous agreement signed with Boris. So what is going on in this? Well, because Europe has now militarized and France and Britain say, that's it, they're going in. Germany has backed out and said no. They were one of the biggest ones a year ago who said they were going to give 50,000 troops, along with France giving 50,000 troops, 100,000 troops to go into Ukraine, to go to the eastern border to fight the Russians, which is against the NATO treaty. So all of these war hawk European nations all are saying they want to go in. But the second they put a NATO boot on the ground, that's open warfare, and then it's no holds barred. So in other words, nuclear weapons, which have been threatened again and again by Putin and Lavrov and everybody, and nuclear. If there were any nuclear bombs, there would have already been some of them stolen, and dirty bombs would have gone off somewhere. Or we would have seen tactical nuclear bombs in situations where, again, we have World War I, World War II style kinetic warfare in Europe. These people just don't stop. And it's always the same old thing. They just want to steal the land, steal the resources, and basically just be a dominant king, monarch. So Zelensky thinks he's the king of Ukraine and the king of the world now. Why? Because he is... Oh, my Lord, take a look at him. He is so high on some kind of weird drug. I don't even know what it is. It's probably a mix of cocaine and I don't know. I don't even want to speculate because there's new drugs out there. He's a drug addict, okay? So he couldn't have done what he did in the Oval Office knowing he already signed 2 previous contracts with Britain to give away those resources unless he thought that he could trick Trump. And then when they turned on him because they already knew what he was doing, then what does he do? He loses it because why? He's just an angry, pornographic, pedophilic, megalomaniacal dictator. What's new? This is what happens to anybody who gets in that kind of power. He has already stolen over $270 billion from the money that we've given him. We gave him money. Europe loaned him money. So why did Trump why is he threatening to put 35,000 NATO U.S. NATO troops into Hungary? Because Orbán is ready to go with Russia again. Many countries would go with Russia if they were given a free election where they actually knew that their vote counted. Remember, there's no democracy. Voting isn't democracy, okay? Voting is when you have a voice equal to all other voices. We choose through our voting, which is all rigged, supposedly. We supposedly choose. These politicians who are completely fake because they're already chosen before the election even happens, because all voting machines since Jimmy Carter's time, with the help of Lord Mark Malloch Brown, have been rigged with the same software called Optech. It's in its 3rd iteration, and it's all around the world. Yes, it's used in Ukraine. How do you think the CIA color revolutions overthrew elections? Basically because these people are too stupid to either create transmissible viruses that kill enough people, because they want to kill most of us, or they can't even properly operate their own software in their election rigging machines. I mean, it's really pathetic, folks, when I see this, because I see half-baked attempts to do things. But Trump is doing this for 2 reasons. In Hungary, to keep Orbán from simply allowing the people to vote to go with Russia instead of the European Union. The European Union now is officially nothing but led by, it is led by nothing but fascists. Listen to the people speaking. Meloni just said in Italy, after saying she was against the Ukrainian war, she was for peace, 2 days later says she is all for using the security elements of the NATO treaty to send in Italian troops to protect and help fight the war in Ukraine. That's a NATO violation. Therefore, the treaty is abrogated, it's nullified, it's voided. Throw it out. Trump knows he'd have to get this rescission in the Congress. And that's why he can't just stop NATO, but he's going to turn off the troops. He's going to bring some back here for the border. He's already said he's going to do that. I haven't seen it happen yet. He says he's threatening to send 35,000 to Hungary to keep Hungary from going into communist Russia, because he wants to keep them in American capitalism, because he knows that they aren't really truly into being in the European Union, because it's a bunch of fascists run by who brought in all the migrants in most of the migrants by ship in Europe. George Soros, Tides Foundation, Open Society, and all the other groups that he coordinates USAID money for. Hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money was used to not only open up the border, but also to pay off, I'm sorry to have to say it, Pope Francis, so that Pope Francis would preach the worst type of socialism and chaos Marxism I've ever seen coming out of the Vatican. But the Vatican was for Hitler. The Vatican is always for the winners. So they think that China was going to win. So they were going all into communism and invaders taking over America. They had to get rid of America if China was to be the superpower, as good old Kissinger told everybody in the Class of Nations would have to happen, and he chose China. And so did Nixon. And so did the Clintons. And so did every president that allows most favored nation trading status with China, always our worst enemy, always breaking every agreement they've ever made with any country ever in history. You cannot name an agreement China's ever kept. Okay? Even when they bought $86 billion worth of the European oil that was previously going across Ukraine in the pipelines, when Zelensky finally turned off the fourth pipeline, which is what the war is really all about, China bought $86 billion the next day. They said, we'll buy all the oil you give to Europe in a year right now. But then China screwed them, you see. So now that's why Russia and China aren't such close friends anymore. And you know why, of course, North Korea is there? Because Russia wants the rare earth minerals in North Korea, which we already know China is sneaking into North Korea to steal through incredibly elaborate tunnels. But anyway, I'm going off into the weeds. Second thing Trump said was, I think we should put nuclear bombs in Poland. Oh, yeah, that's going to go over big. Okay, the only person who could say that would be someone who was completely stupid, because Poland is the first country that will go to war with Russia and defend their rights. The persecution they went through, they never forgot, and they're vengeful. Okay, so Trump says, let's put nuclear missiles on Russia's border. Think of that. How many times does dictator Putin and his cronies have to tell us that if we ever do that, that's it? They will do a preemptive attack, because, of course, what would happen if we put nuclear bombs in, let's just say Cuba? Oh, that's right. We almost go into a world war over the Russian attempt to put nuclear missiles in Cuba. So is Trump going to put nuclear missiles in Poland? First off, there'd have to be nuclear missiles. And okay, I know you don't believe me, but if you do the research, you will, because even nuclear waste isn't nuclear waste. If nuclear waste was what they said it was, Fukushima years ago was supposed to have poisoned all fish in the Pacific. The 3 Mile Island was supposed to have poisoned all the fish in the Atlantic, but we're still eating them, and they're not dead. So there are people who get into baths, the nuclear baths that are supposed to burn up your body, and go swim in it. I've seen the films of the guy doing reclamation. People don't understand that reclaimed plutonium or uranium is the most expensive substance on the face of the earth. They're not going to just simply put it into a storage place. That's stupid. And show me any place it's ever happened. Okay? And I'll show you what really happened. How about all of the nuclear waste buried in the salt mines of Detroit? Well, it ain't there, folks. Never was. How about all of the nuclear waste buried in the second deepest trench in the Pacific, right off the coast of, between Maui and the Big Island of Hawaii? No, it's not there now. And so, these ideas that there's going to be a nuclear war, forget it. Let that fear drop. There's much bigger fears. The electromagnetic frequency bombardment of your body is something to be much more worried about. Most illnesses come from that, the stress created by bombarding your body with literally millions and millions of high frequency, low frequency, very high frequency, ultra low frequency. Every frequency imaginable has been bounced off our atmosphere to try to manipulate it. That's what they try to do. Science can only understand what they can kill. They don't understand life. So going back to Trump. Okay, it's getting a little bit funny, Trump, and you're getting a little bit punch happy here to think that we're going to believe that you're going to move 35,000 troops to the Hungarian border. Because if you do, Putin has said that's just as good as declaring war. Now remember, the entire British Army has already been mobilized over a year ago. They're at war. And they've been at war. They're the ones who started the war. Okay? They want those resources, especially in the Donbass region. And since Russia effectively went in the Donbass region after 2 elections where the Donbass Russians voted to have Russia rule them, not Kiev, not Ukraine. Because why? Ukraine was persecuting them. Persecuting their own people. and then bombed them and called them Russian dissidents or Russian agents, which they weren't at that time. Later they were. And so anyway, what's really going on is the Donbass region, the whole southern part of Ukraine on the Black Sea is what it's all about. That means Georgia's up for grabs, as Crimea was. What happened when Putin just strolled into Crimea? What did Obama do? Nothing. Nothing. Except continue to work with Russia as our best friend. And so Moldova, of course Putin will take Moldova, and of course he'll take Georgia, of course he'll take everything he can, of course he'll take Ukraine, every part of it, especially Kiev. He'll take it all, but he'll also provide them with oil and give them oil deals that will be like Ukraine, between 40, 50, 60%, depending on the year, of the entire GDP of Ukraine was for nothing but allowing Russia to run oil through pipelines across Ukraine that Russia took care of. They did all the maintenance. They built it. They did it all. All the stupid Ukrainians had to do was say, okay, who did it go to? Oh, Europe, the enemy of Russia. And who in Nord Stream 1 got more oil than anybody else? Oh, that was Germany, who lied to everyone in Europe, jacked up the prices, and became the number one dominant commercial interest in the European Union. That's why Brit had to pull out. The UK, the Britons had to pull out. Why? Because Germany became the dominant force. They again did what? Joined with France to work against Britain. That's all these people know how to do, is fight, fight, fight. It's disgusting. I say we can solve a lot of these things by simply seeing if people are adequate enough to even run for office. Okay? Just give AOC a quiz. She can't run for office. She doesn't know what the three elements of our government are. She doesn't know anything. And who was her teacher? The head of the Young Turks. What's his name? He's got a very strange name. Anyway, that's who trained her. And he did an ad to ask for pretty girls who want to be in politics, who are real stupid and will take direction from the Young Turks and create the Young Americans. She is which are fascist groups. Whenever you say Young Italy, Young Turks, Young America, those are fascist groups. And they're stupid. They just want chaos Marxism. So Trump says he will consider giving Poland nuclear weapons. Well, I assure you, Poland will launch nuclear weapons against Russia. That's just a guarantee. What? You'd have to be stupid not to understand the animosity in that area. You don't give even tactical nuclear weapons to any of the nations that are on the Russian border, because remember, they used to be Russian. And in some cases, they liked it, because why? The European Union has done what to these nations who are members? Fascism, COVID, migrant invasion, telling them they can't put up walls to stop the migrant, let's call it, I'll just call it an invasion. That is a George Soros attempt to do what? Bring all European nations into a central bank so that he can control it, manipulate it, because his job is to work with the CIA, which is British, MI5, MI6, and GCHQ, and the whole British thing, the Pilgrim Society. They all have this all planned out. It's a 200-year plan. We're halfway through, and they are well on the way to collapsing America and making America just their military arm. And then they've also, isn't it interesting, King Henry VIII became his own pope, didn't he? Because why? He wanted more sex. And so when he became his own pope, he started his own Knights of Malta in Britain, and all of his own Masonic lodges and everything else. Well, since then, the Pope has been under the manipulation in the Vatican Bank and all that the Pope controls, which is a huge amount of people, to become full-on fascists. He yells at the whole world that we, especially America, have to take in these invaders. who are mostly the worst people on the face of the earth. And does he take any of them into the Vatican City? He took in about about a dozen, and then after like a week, he kicked them out because they were stealing. This is how naive dictators are. Okay, the Pope is a dictator, and he's on his deathbed now, and all I can say is, whoa, he's got one hell of a hell to face with the fact that he has literally, remember, it was Obama, during the Obama administration, that Obama dropped more bombs than any other president in history, 10 times more than most, and he dropped literally, I forget, hundreds of, when it was all panned out, you could say, as an average, a couple hundred bombs a day the entire time he was in office. And he got the Nobel Peace Prize. That's how sick the world is. And what did he do? No one wants to talk about this anymore. Where do you think the migrants come from? The places that Obama bombed. And he's a coward. He bombed with drones. He never went to war. He never got permission for these attacks all over the world, because the fake 911 attack on America, which now we know is, we have 100% proof. And I'll tell you that in a minute. You might be interested in that because this is a new discovery. And it's only recently that you can actually see the proof of it just by going online and looking it up. That the second plane that hit the towers, it was a plasma projection. They have plasma projections that can mimic any plane and even carry a heat signature. And it's done through diffuse microwave being sent through a filament, an invisible filament of plasma, and projected. And then they stop it. They light up all of the they ionize. They light up all of the basically loose electrons and protons in the atmosphere, and turn it into whatever shape they want. That's the reason that plane had no markings on it, and it flew into a building, and its wings didn't fall off. It's made of aluminum. Planes are made of aluminum. They fall off all the time. You can't go into a reinforced steel concrete building, by the way. The World Trade Center was the most reinforced steel concrete. I was there when it was being built. I love those two buildings. I was inside of them. I was on top of them before it was even legal to go up there. I knew those buildings backwards and forwards. And there's no way, you see, it was an image. And now we have that image. And every single fighter plane has plasma generators that generate plasma balls or filaments that turn into balls that then are turned into decoy planes. And the missiles trying to knock them out of the air chase the decoys because they're even hotter than the plane, because plasma is super hot. So these are things that are happening all over the place. And do you think that that piece of evidence, because we've seen that it was a projection, the second plane was a projection. We can see the projection glitch out from a number of the videos that were made of it. And so why don't we go back and retry these cases? That will never happen, folks. The United States justice system is a British aristocracy, and there is no justice in it. If there's justice, it's an accident, or the judge was paid off. Well, no, or he had a good lunch, because they're always paid off. Okay, they're paid off before the case comes to them. They're paid off when they are assigned the case by the biggest and most corrupt, as we just saw. John Roberts assigns the judges for the FISA court. Trump just renewed the FISA court 702 abilities. That's what spied on him. So we're in a big trouble here. We're looking at the possibility in the news of World War III, because Trump has said he's going to move nuclear weapons into Poland, 35,000 NATO American troops into Hungary. No, that's not what's happening. Don't you remember? He said just 2 days ago that Zelensky has to sign. He has no choice. Okay? And that's because he stole $270 billion. We know where it is. Do you realize he bought a French bank? This is in the news today. It's been tracked. Doge found out that the money that went to Zelensky, he bought for $1.1 billion a major French bank. And that means Macron was in on it. So Macron knew that Zelensky, as I told you, his money was in a Cyprus account, and he's an oligarch now, so he's going to have to try to make that money legal. So he bought a French bank. $1.1 billion. Cash. Oh, wonder where he got the money. Anyway, so Zelensky's caught red-handed. He's going to have to go on, he's going to have to hide after all this. Now, Putin has been pushed to his limit because he actually does see, he can't have faith in Trump anymore because the European Union in the last week after the Zelensky meeting has come out and showed itself insane with the Odessa false flag of Putin supposedly bombing British weapons going, British sea drones to help Ukraine in it because the boat was it was a NATO delivery, okay? That's what they're calling it. And so notice, after we busted them on that, there's been no talk of that. That's about the 20th false flag that Britain has tried to get America pulled into the war as they did in Ukraine, as they did in World War I and II, and in Afghanistan, every other war we've been in, practically, certainly in modern times. So the British are just warmongers. They can't help themselves. They're not human. They're monsters. Starmer just look at his record. He's a monster. So what's he doing? He has threatened Putin. Putin knows that he mobilized, that Britain mobilized. Britain freaked out when they mobilized, what was it, a year and a half ago? They were all completely freaked out, and we were being told over here in America we're going to have the draft brought back and that women will be in the draft. Okay, this is the insanity of the people who are the world leaders right now. So I can explain that in a minute why that happens, but let's just say there are angelic and demonic forces that have now been released that are so rampant that they don't mind showing who they are. It used to be you had freedom. You don't get freedom anymore. If you don't see evil in these world dictators and what they do, and in war where humans kill humans over what? Over somebody elite above them making a bunch of money? No. That's these people we cannot say that this is anything less than very high level spiritual beings who have become what are called laggards. They've fallen back in their development. So they have great power, and they're inspiring these leaders. So is Trump inspired in this new move? No, he had to do that to make it look like he was muscling up against Putin so Putin will come to the table, because Putin is not going to come to the table if it's going to be the sham of Minsk I, Minsk II, or the Belarus ceasefire that was in the first 2 weeks of Britain attacking Putin from across Ukrainian to Russian border. That's how that started. The British commandos started it. They blew up an atomic nuclear power plant. It could have been a disaster for the whole world, but oh, that's right. Nuclear is not what they say it is now, is it? And then 2 weeks later, Zelensky goes up to a meeting with Belarus, with Russia, with himself and a few other nations to basically create a ceasefire. And he walks into the building, never goes to the never goes to the meeting, and walks out with a briefcase and refuses to talk to them. And he's been refusing to talk to them. In Trump's office, he said that he would not stop until there wasn't one man left in Ukraine. That's what he said. And he also said things in Ukrainian that were so insulting that obviously he did that on purpose because he knew he was caught. So don't believe that we're going to go into World War III and it's going to be a nuclear war. That there is, first off, a kinetic war, a war on the ground with actually tanks and missiles and so on and so forth is just stupid. One single Russian cruise missile could have taken out Zelensky and the whole gang. Okay, why hasn't this happened? Note, they struck Moscow with drones given to them by European nations. And I keep forgetting to mention this, that when we gave more than 350 billion to him. We gave lots of weapons, and the European Union and America cleaned out their caches of weapons and munitions and gave them to Ukraine. And where did they end up? On the black market. That's the reason that they haven't, when they have one offensive that actually moved a little bit forward, and that was after we gave them certain types of guided missiles that could take out any command and control center of the Russians without an idiot could fly it. Okay, that's the only time they had any real movement forward in their war. They couldn't even, with all the artillery that came from the American government to bomb for Kiev and Poroshenko and the guy before him, the president before him, who were both CIA agents, and Zelensky's a CIA agent, they used artillery to bomb Donbass. And you'll hear them claim out there that they killed, about 30,000 people. No, it's about 100,000 of their own people before Russia even got involved. Russia watched 100,000, mostly Russians, killed in Donbass because of the fascism. And remember, he always calls Kiev Nazi fascist. Why? Because they are the party of the regions, and they are the same exact people who supported Hitler. They are fascists. They use fascist doctrine. They are fascists. There's no way that any true historian or anthropologist would say that Ukraine at this moment for the last 20 years has not been the most corrupt and fascist government in Europe. And so there you have it. That was declared by even the people who were in the impeachment of Trump for talking to Zelensky on the phone, Fiona Hill and Vindman and the lady who was the ambassador to Ukraine. Those people believe they ran Ukraine, and they asked Vindman to stop being an American, get a dual citizenship, and come be the president of Ukraine. Okay, that's how bad it was. That's why Trump made sure he added one thing to that agreement with Zelensky, and that's that anybody, any country or any person who has helped in the advancement of this war cannot be any part of sharing in the resources that Trump is going to get 50% of from Ukraine, which is two of the largest oil fields in the world and those are real, and then the supposed mineral deposits. So what we have here is Trump flexing his muscles because he said, and he said this with an ominous look in his eye, even worse than when he got rid of Perkins Coie and took away their security clearance, or that which is where Perkins Coie handled all of the legal dealings of the Democratic National Committee, and basically probably. Well, we know who killed Seth Rich, and of course they're not going to investigate that now. They're not going to investigate the Mossad or Unit 8200, any Israeli that was involved with Epstein. Well, hello. He worked directly for them. What are you talking about? You're not going to investigate that. That's what the FBI and stupid Bimbo Bondi has said. They're not going to investigate anything to do with Israel in relationship to Epstein. And remember, Epstein didn't do any videos when he was in New York. He'd already been busted in Florida. Go get the videos in Florida. Pam, you were the Attorney General at that time. How do you expect us not to remember that? You allowed that case to be a grand jury indictment to make sure that Epstein was not prosecuted. You are one of the biggest supporters of Epstein. So, of course, she's not going to share that with us. Of course, they're not going to share any of the true information. It ain't there anymore. It's not locked up in the CIA, or it's not in the FBI director's headquarters main office, or the vault there, the evidence vault. No, it's not there. Go look. It's not there. Kash Patel, you idiot. And Bongino, you idiot. First thing you should have done is gone in. Before you even went in the building, you should have sent in a SWAT team to try to secure any evidence that has not already been completely destroyed. Hunter's laptops, there were 4 of them, not one. Huma Abedin, Wiener's laptop, hello, that was spread all over the world. We have the server. We have Bashir's server. Oh, come on, man. You would have to be an idiot not to be able to arrest as many people as you want. Now, you'd have to put it outside of D.C. and the circuit courts, or you'd have to make sure that the most corrupt judge sends it to a pseudo-honest judge, which, okay, that's almost impossible. So are you going to get anybody convicted? We haven't yet, and I don't know that we will. But we are not going to go to war in Ukraine, even though any second they're going to send Macron's 50,000 troops. Why? Because he's going to get all the Zelensky $270 billion money, because he's going to launder that money into things like, oh, what? Buying a French friggin' bank? Okay, what does Zelensky know about a bank? He's an idiot. He doesn't know nothing. That's the reason he was a pornographic entertainer. He's as stupid as some of our comedians that people actually listen to their political opinion. You'd have to be crazy to do that. Anyway, so Trump said that Putin will have to sign. And then he looked down and then he looked up and he said, he'll have to sign. And then looked down and then he said under his breath, he has no choice. So the choice is going to be, Trump is going to muscle up, going to look like he's going to say, okay, you want us to do the thing that you always say you're most scared of in your narrative, in your political theater, in your geophysical political theater nonsense verbiage garbage that Russia always throws at us and we throw back at them and the European Union throws. This has been going on since before World War I. Okay? And if you listen to Putin long enough, because he's truly, truly an evil man, you will start to believe him. Because the way he tells the story is true, because we did do them wrong. But it doesn't matter. What did they do to their own people? What about Stalin? What about Lenin? What about Bolshevism? So selectively choosing, cherry picking history is Putin's absolute favorite thing to do. Okay. So I'm not worried about that. Am I worried that in America, if Trump goes too fast, so in a way, I'm almost, if Trump did it my way, there could be a revolution in America, because all the people who've been on the dole, which we've now found out, I don't know how many times I've said this, 4.5 million people work directly underneath the executive department, the president. 2.5 of them are military or National Guard, million. 2 million are wasted. When we go into, and so right now we're going into the same case where we have they just can't decide on the budget, so they are going to close down government and only essential workers stay. Good. Let that happen. And you please, you Republicans, I know it's stupid for me to try to appeal to a bird with two wings. One is a wing of Republican, one is a wing of Democrats. You're one party, the uniparty. But if you just let the government fail and go into only essential, everybody will leave. That's how you win these wars, just like Trump did. He took away their credit cards. The judge said give them back, so he gave them back. He didn't have to. And said, okay, your limit is $1. So what he says to the Congress, and even though it's both Republican, doesn't matter. There's so many evil people there, and they're all bought. They all are part of USAID. That's not just a Democrat slush fund. Oh, no. Oh, I could go on all day about the way that you go to government to steal money. You don't go there for the cheap salary they give you. You go there for influence and for insider trading and for getting into these deals where you simply have to get on a committee that doesn't exist and you get paid millions and millions of, basically as much as you want. Look at Act Blue. And remember, Act Blue was shuffling everybody who was donating to like Haiti Relief Fund and these things that you would make you cry to see the commercial. And where was it going? To the Democrat Party, Act Blue. That's their fundraising group. And they've already found out that everything they were doing was illegal. That was found out when Hillary stole the money from the Democratic National Committee. But Mark Elias was there and Perkins Coie to defend her. And so nothing happened except that Seth got killed. Okay, Seth Rich got killed. That's all that happened there, because the evidence was being turned into the FBI the next day, and he was killed on the Washington, D.C. streets at 4 a.m. in the morning by, I could tell you who, but it's not nice to say that over out in public these days. Anyway, let's just say a government agency went after him. Okay. So can Trump win this war? Not if he goes too fast. Not if I was him and he did what I said, because I would simply say, first thing you do, hire 5,000 lawyers that don't even know where Washington, D.C. is. Bring them to D.C., show them the evidence from Truth History that we have provided you, and that's 6 million pages of evidence, okay, and you can get it for free. What is it, 600 gigabytes? And let Doge simply put in anybody's name, pull up the evidence, which is this is judicially recognized as evidence that we have produced, and send those people to jail instantaneously. Show them the evidence and say, you want a plea deal? Okay, now life in prison instead of death. Bye. We have a lot of FEMA camps. Remember I forget the number, but huge amounts of money have been paid to FEMA camps that was supposed to hold migrants coming across the border who were released into America who never had a single migrant come there and yet have full staffs. There's like 5 of these. They've only found one, and I forget how much it was for. It was a huge amount of money. So this is what the government does. If you didn't know that, then you don't. You need to realign your definition of government. Government is basically it's the biggest thief. And there's honor among thieves. Thieves don't turn in thieves who are stealing. Okay? Now, let me go to some happy things. Right now, since May 2024, we've had an incursion of protons that we've never seen before from a coronal mass ejection that hit the southern magnetic pole, came into, which isn't normal. Normally, the bow shock of the magnetosphere meeting the solar wind pushes it around the edge of the magnetosphere, which looks like a comet, by the way. And when it gets to the tail, sometimes it bounces back, called magnetic reconnection. Well, in this case, the magnetic reconnection brought so many protons into our atmosphere, we now have a new proton field, which is as big as one of the 2 plasma fields that we have. We have 2 gigantic Van Allen belts, like toruses, like donuts around the Earth, and then 2 of those for plasma. Well, now there's an extra one. And that causes, because it's protons, it causes plasma forcing. So if you got our book or you've been following these talks on plasma, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So this plasma forcing is coming to the Earth, and that's why all the light orbs, those are plasma balls. Those are called plasmoids. They're well studied in the lab and in nature, and if you read the book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, you'll think I'm a nutcase, but I'm out in the weeds, so tough luck. So this solar forcing has caused literally the chariots of angels and archangels and archai to come down to the Earth and try to clean up the garbage we've put into the atmosphere. All atmospheres, the lithosphere, the crust of the Earth. The troposphere, what we know is the realm of weather. It gets colder you should go up. As soon as you cross the tropopause, you enter into the stratosphere, and in the stratosphere is the ozone layer. And then you go above that, you come to the mesosphere, and then you come to the thermosphere, then you come to the exosphere. And in between the meso and thermo and exo is the ionosphere. I have to explain that to make this concept come alive in your head. So the ionosphere, they can't understand. It's all plasma. It's invisible, but it's basically what creates proto-life on Earth. The ozone, they can't understand. Without that, we'd all die immediately. The ozone ring. Now, ozone on the Earth, that's different. That's in the troposphere, okay, and touching onto the stratosphere. But where you have the ozone, basically a mirror that sends back the light of the sun that would kill us, all the heavy rays. Well, because we have bombarded the atmosphere, and because there's this plasmic forcing of proton energy coming into what is usually, they basically ignore protons, okay? When they say there's electricity, they'll tell you it's all electrons. No, there's protons in there too. But why is it that there's so many electrons? And if there's so many electrons, ions, where do they come from? They never tell you that. And if electricity is all ions of electricity, how come those atoms, what they call atoms, which is nonsense, have been exploded and their protons and their electrons and their neutrons are all separated? What caused them to explode? Nobody can explain that. And so what they're doing is they experiment because they know the secret lies in the 7 layers of heaven, as it's called. The lithosphere, the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the ozone sphere, the where did I get up to? The thermosphere, the ionosphere, the exosphere, the plasmasphere, the magnetosphere, the Van Allen belts. Without knowing that, you don't know anything about Earth. You're an idiot. If you think you're a scientist and you know Because then they're going to tell you oxygen and water came from meteorites. Stupidest thing. That's as stupid as the Big Bang, which they've now had to adjust 4 times so that it fits what they think they're observing in space. So where does oxygen and water come from? It comes from the sun and the moon. Working with high helium, the sun works with helium to create oxygen, O2, the ozone layer, and O3, what we breathe. And because there's so much oxygen, it's also used to create biological substance by plasmoids in the thermosphere and beyond into the plasmasphere. But that's cold plasma out there. The hot plasma, they want to know where the energy comes from? A plasmoid can get up to well over 1 million degrees Fahrenheit. In one chamber, there's multiple chambers in a single ball of plasma. Those balls of light you see, there's multiple chambers in them. They're not living beings. They're organic, electromagnetic, plasmic processes that look just like life. It looks like biological life. And in fact, they help precipitate biological life. And they talk about that. They call it particle precipitation. So throughout all my research, if I could pull it together and Grok 3 it, you would get the book that we've created. And then you would be one of the first people on the earth to actually, for the first time, think about plasma in all of its many forms: cold, hot, bound, not bound, visible, not visible, spatial, not spatial, anti-gravitational, anti-electrostatic, anti-electromagnetic. Everything the scientists tell you only works down here on the earth. The second, even below the earth, you've surely heard this. When there's before an earthquake, I've seen this. When there's before an earthquake, you see blue balls of plasma rise up out of the earth and hover and then disappear. And you see a bunch of them. This is well documented. Above a volcano, I've seen this too, because I've been to the Big Island where I lived for 10 years and saw this happen. Red and green plasma balls rise up out of a fountaining or hot magma coming out of a volcanic cone or shield. And then over the water, like all the ones over New Jersey, why did all those plasma balls come out of the water? And they're different colors. They can be gold, green, red, blue, because they're in the water too. Plasma doesn't care about physical matter. It goes right through it. It goes all the way through it. And it cleans up our atmosphere. And because we've dirtied it up now with plasma, these things I told you about, these plasma decoys, plasma ships, unmanned plasma ships, all the different anti-gravitational ships that they're experimenting with. And now what I predict they will eventually find out is their plasma defense system around every U.S. base. And why is it that Trump, after the New Jersey plasma incidents, which also showed many, many, many UFOs, which were manned or unmanned, chasing them, trying to catch one, because they've never caught a plasma ever. They can make them in the laboratory. They cannot catch it. Why? Because it's way, way beyond anything they understand. So how is it that Trump says all of a sudden we're going to have the Golden Dome? The only reason the Golden Dome works in Israel is because it's a small state, and they already had the Iron Dome and 2 other domes, the Hammer and the other one. The only way he can say we're going to have a dome to protect us is what they've kept as a military secret since I first learned about this in 1972, called magneto-hydrodynamic generators. They're plasma generators that create direct current by simply flowing a stream of plasma. That's why they call it hydro. They impregnate a stream of plasma with argon or other different heavy metals, rush it across a magnetic field where there's an open gap in it, and the second the plasma hits that gap, it creates direct current. That's how they start all nuclear power plants. That's how nuclear subs run, and that's how nuclear aircraft carriers run. You can't start a nuclear plant unless you already have 20-25% of the energy going. That's what a MHD, magneto-hydrodynamic generators, are. You put one of those on a Searle effect, on a Searle machine. Searle invented UFOs that they would come and tell him, we just watched you on on the radar, and whatever just came from your land here accelerated exponentially until it went out of our ability to perceive it, even with satellites, faster than anything we've ever seen move. How did you do that? He goes, it's called the Searle effect. Here, let me show you. And this goes way, way, way back. The Tinsley effect, all these anti-gravitational things. NASA, just look up NASA has found far beyond finding, they have anti-gravitational machines. So every time we send them up, or we send chemtrails that then float up into the air because they're nanoparticles and they go through the temperature differentials of minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit to sometimes as much as 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit positive, hot, they transform and they explode. And they create bursts of energy like a magnesium nanoparticle over a flame. It'll blow your mind. It's like a lightning bolt. And so they're destroying the atmosphere, and now they're sending these ships up there. And so what happened? Every ship that you saw that was a real ship made by humans quickly had an electroplasmic ball come around it and start doing maneuvers. Like I saw 4 of them just yesterday. 4 plasma balls going along very nicely, cleaning up the atmosphere. And what happens? Military helicopters chasing them. They chase them. They try to gather information off them. They can't. Why? They're not physical. Now, would you say they're spiritual? Well, they're elemental beings, super elemental beings, who are used as chariots. You could imagine this. Now, here we go. You want to talk about the weeds? The way I see them, and I've always seen them as a child, when there's an electrical storm, those are called Ophanim. They're called the Merkabah, the thrones, the beings of willpower, who Steiner says that create lightning, or actually thunder. The cherubim above them create the lightning, but the lightning and the thunder are your blood and your thoughts. And so every time you see lightning, and I would be able to see, people couldn't see them, I'd point them out to them. There, don't you see the ball lightning up there? No. Don't you see it? It's rolling here. It's rolling to the left. It's rolling to the right. Don't see it. If you put on infrared glasses, you will see it. By the way, all circulation of anything fluid on the earth is because of far infrared. That's now been proven by Gerald Pollack. So these things that Steiner said are now being proven left and right, but it doesn't matter, because no 2 scientific silos talk to any other silo. If I said these things to any scientist, they would get mad. They'd bring out their mathematical statistics and say I'm insane, and then they'd talk your ear off with all kinds of jargon and statistics that would make you convinced that they know what they're talking about. That's what a nervous, psychotic person does. I know. I've worked in many, many psych wards and many I think I've seen just about every psychological condition. And I identified with all of them. That's the reason I could work with them. And the best I like to work with are children under the age of 3. Oh, yes, because they're still pure. So if we could go back to that age, we have to remember that in our body, the plasma provides for us eternal cells. Plasma provides for us our nerve system, our spine, our brain, the energy that drives the heart, the energy exchange system between going into and out of cells. It provides the nervous system that's in your intestines, which is called the gut, the brain of the gut. So there's 3 different centers for plasma in the body, and basically perception and consciousness only arises because we are able to contain cold plasma. But we don't even know what plasma is, but we've turned it into weapons that are beyond your imagination. Read the book we've created, and it'll scare you. And that's the reason we've called for a moratorium on this stuff. And so, you can't call for a moratorium on geopolitical stuff because it's people. And those people aren't going to change because they are ensconced in their evil deeds. And they have justified it to the point that nothing can convince them otherwise. It's like talking Putin out of not wanting to reclaim all the nations that George Soros and Leah Wanta, through the CIA and the British Pilgrim Society, stole from him. That's the issue. So once we look at the real causes of things, we can stop the effects. But science looks at only the effect. They do never, ever look at the cause. They're going to tell you the entire cosmos is made out of gravity and the strong and nuclear force. In other words, they're stupid atomic theories and gravity, which has never been proven. And every day you'll see a lie on the internet from scientism that tells you that gravity's been proven. They've created quantum energy. They've created plasmic energy and fusion energy, and they've created quantum computers, and they've created qubits. Those are all lies. They have super AI, all lies. This is what you have to do when you have a religion that is false. And scientism is a religion. And they have to stop killing everything they don't understand. And they have to start looking at life and stop looking only at death. So what is happening now? Mutation has happened all over the earth. You'll notice everywhere, all over the internet, people are getting it. They're understanding. We're seeing change. We're seeing changes in all these balls of light dropping from the sky. We're seeing changes in the fact that electricity doesn't work the way it works anymore because all these balls of plasma have come down because they're anti-electrogravitational. They've invented the best chips in the world. And what have they invented? They don't even use electromagnetism. And by the way, they found new forms of magnetism that show that what they think about magnetism is all wrong. And the new forms they created are electrostatic. And so all dark matter, what is basically plasma, non-glowing plasma, all dark matter is sitting in a state of electrostatic, but a natural form of electrostatic energy, pushing each other away from each other. That's why there's so little out there in space. But the second that there's an electrical current going through it, a natural electrical current, it pulls it together, creates magnetism, and that's where gravity comes from. And anything else is silly. But if you don't know that plasma works in the universe, and only the etheric formative forces can explain what happens down here on Earth, and that you have to understand the 7 etheric formative forces, not just the 4 of them, and you have to add to that plasma, which Steiner explains, Rudolf Steiner explains all this stuff, then you can see how the tree of life gives us our oxygen and our water. And at this point, we are doing everything we can, consciously and unconsciously, to destroy the tree of life. So the mystery of life is found in plasma. Even though there is a life ether, it's hard to understand unless you go into concepts that are spiritual, non-physical concepts. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a change from materialism to an open-minded wonder, awe, and reverence of nature, both on the earth and in the universe, which is also, the whole universe is found in the human being. So we have it right here. The human being on earth is the universe. And until we change the focus of our microscopes and telescopes to focus on the human being, we're just going to be creating more data than anybody can possibly cognize, synthesize, or turn into anything useful. And we just turn it into weapons because of greedy innovation of people who always want to dominate the scenario, whether it be economic or lust or jealousy, envy, any of the 7 deadly sins. Those who wish to dominate them are the evil, and that's who evil comes into. And once they believe this, they have entire hundreds of years of families that swear to this evil. And when you say that they're sacrificing children, yeah, they are, through the wars they create, through the banks they own, and through the asset management companies that they direct, and through their philanthropic supposed interests, and through their pharmaceutical death jabs. They kill people. That's human sacrifice. It's not an exaggeration. They worship Satan. Satan is another name for money. Okay? Money is supposed to be human effort. Human effort should be the only currency, period. And if you can't do the human effort for some reason, then we need to take care of those people. But if you take human effort and turn it into something that can be frozen, like fiat currency, paper dollars, or species currency, gold and silver or copper, that is pure evil, folks. And you either serve God or you serve that evil. And that is Satan. Moloch is human sacrifice, but Mammon is the god of money, but he's also the god of all evil. He's Satan. He's every nasty name for a devil you know. And there are people who unconsciously or consciously, everything they do is in honor of that concept of greed and money. And so therefore that's their religion. Whatever you do the most, that is your religion. And you have a religion of one in this age because there's so much freedom. Freedom to go to the good, to become angels and see all the hierarchy working in the spirit, in the physical world. Because remember, someone posted this the other day. Anthroposophy is saying that the physical world is spiritual. Incorrect. So incorrect, I can't believe someone could say that. The physical world is a dying world. We see the spirit dying, shattering into this world, if you have the eyes and ears of spirit and the heart of the spirit. But until then, you're seeing mostly death unless you want to go out into a few areas like a garden, plants, watching plants grow, watching the seasons, watching life. Science only watches death. If they want to analyze a plant, they pull it up by the roots. This is no exaggeration. Wash it off as if it didn't come from the soil. Get it out of the sun as if it didn't rise up because of the sun. Get into poisonous air, burn it, and examine the mineral particles. That's how they examine things. Now, the anthroposophists, they believe in a living botany, a living chemistry. And when you understand the ethers, you understand that chemistry is essentially the harmony of the spheres. In our solar system, out to Saturn, is inside of an elongated cometary tail of the sun. And that's what we should be examining. And when we do, well, we find out amazing things, but don't put a theory on it until you have some way to connect it to the human being. If you have found it in space and you haven't found it in the human being, then your theory is incorrect. It's as simple as that. So, there we go. Those are the weeds I'd like to go into today, and I'm going to get out of my sauna blanket here. And I think I'll go take an Epsom salt, baking soda, borax, or boron bath, one of the best things you can do. And sitting inside of this light, I just want to point out one more thing, because you know me. I get out of the weeds, the tall weeds, and what I see, another patch of weeds. Science has now proven that light can turn into air and water. Soon they'll add, into air, water, and solid. They just discovered this, or at least just announced it. And I checked it out. It is true. These are super hyper states and blah, 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 blah. And they can only exist in really rarefied conditions. But the point is, Rudolf Steiner says it's exactly what happened. Warmth turns into light, turns into sound, the harmony of the spheres, chemistry, valence, all that stuff, number, ether, all that. And then it turns into life, the word, the logos, the form structure that is self-sustaining. These plasmoids, they're self-sustaining. They've been out there for heavens knows how long doing this for us. Has anybody ever thanked them? We used to go out into the high Sierra Plains outside of Los Angeles with Trevor Constable and a bunch of other people, put on infrared glasses and use infrared cameras and film these things. And the more we yelled and screamed and whistled, the more they reacted, and the more they separated into, looked like mitosis, into separate beings, and they run along the power lines, and they run at us and zoom over our heads. And they were playful. They acted like playful critters. Are they alive? No, but they sure look like they're alive. They're vehicles. Is a chariot alive? Well, it's got a horse drawing it. That's the plasma electricity. The chariot, well, that's the magnetism. That's the field lines that hold it all together, without which there wouldn't be. Electricity starts and the field lines start almost simultaneously. So which is first, chicken or the eggs? So on the chariot, it isn't the horse, and it isn't the chariot, and it's not the wheels. It's not the reins. It's who's in the chariot. So who's in these plasma balls? Who's directing them? Who directs lightning? Who directs thunder? Who directs the clouds? Who directs negative electrons? Who directs positive protons and directs neutrons? Who directs them? You see, they're invisible. They're much bigger. When I look at an animal, I love all animals, because they have a group soul that is so higher than me. It's higher than the group soul that I'll even attain in many, 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 many incarnations, even incarnations of the earth. Okay? The animal group soul is in the realm of the beings of motion, the dynamis. I look at an animal, I see their group soul, unless you've humanized them. And that's not a good thing to do, by the way, domesticating animals, especially humanizing them. But anyway, I look at a tree, and what do I see? I see the Karyotites, the beings of wisdom who bring us the light from the sun and the warmth, all the aspects of the light of the sun, the whole wisdom structure of our solar system and what we think is out there in the cosmos. That's what I see. And it's astounding because you see it, you hear it, you feel it, you taste it, you touch it. You know that it's real. You know it's higher than you. You can feel that it's in non-space. People ask me, what do you experience when you see an aura or an angel? There's no describing it. There's no words that describe those things. If there was a word that described it, then there's no such thing. No such thing. So I look at crystals. People know I'm obsessed with crystals. And I have a lot of beautiful, beautiful crystals. I used to buy and sell them all the time. I'm one of the guys who helped start the whole movement of crystals and double terminated and all the psychic energy and the piezoelectric energy. I've wrote one of the first books on it. Yeah, well, guess what? Those are thrones. Those the same beings that are in thunder, that work with lightning. That's the ophanim. That's the Merkabah. Every quartz crystal that's real nice and clear and well formed, especially if it's a double terminated crystal, is a Merkabah. An angel, a lot higher than an angel, a throne being is frozen in that crystal. It knew it was going to have to stay there for the entire length of the existence of the earth. That's the sacrifice it's making. It's not in time, and it's technically not in space. That being isn't there. That's their manifestation. But that manifestation was created a long time ago, lasts a long time. It's going to take a long time to dissolve, but not as long as you think. That's a topic for another day. So what we're talking about is if you look out on the world and you see the life in the grass, the life in the plants, the life in the clouds, you're seeing the higher hierarchy. The spirit is not hiding from anybody. We just think we're the only ones here. That's the greatest sin, is the sin of hubris, the sin of pride for scientists to think they're the only ones who ever discovered something. It's been here for a long, long time, Mr. Scientist, so we don't wish to name it after you. So what we have to do is simply go towards that which is natural. Go towards what your heart tells you, because your heart is the whole universe turned inside out. That's what Rudolf Steiner says. And your heart is what? It's one set of muscles that right now work on their own, but we control them a bit when we blush or when we run or when we exercise. So they become not autonomic, they become sympathetic. So it's an autonomic muscle that is twisted in the shape of a Mobius curve that happens to be the perfect vessel to launch the blood, which is flowing because of far infrared. That's what causes blood to flow, but it's given a vortex momentum boost to make sure that it spirals properly, because there's at least 4 heart vortex rings in the 4 chambers of the heart that actually tune the frequency of the heart, as well as read the content of the heart in terms of metals and minerals. And that's what causes what some people would say is cybernetic energy or bioelectric energy. So there's different types. Now we've lumped it all into, it's all electromagnetic energy. That is so far from the truth. There's nothing further from the truth than to say the human body creates electromagnetic energy, like runs through wires. That is what causes materialism. To call the brain a computer, to call the liver a production plant. These are all stupid analogies. No, you should call them the beings, the higher beings that they represent, and the spheres that they work in that bring in vibrations of harmonic resonance called the harmony of the spheres. And without that, there'd be no life. And it's on the surface of every one of your organs. And those organs are the shape created by the spheres in our solar system. And this someday will be proven. Matter of fact, they now have a hydrodynamic heart, demonstrating that the thing they want to say doesn't exist is being put in people, which is confirmation of what I say. They make the weapon first. So they're trying to make a sun on Earth with fusion. They admit they could blow up the whole Earth with it, just like CERN. They're trying to create the moment of creation, a big bang that created all the galaxies in the universe. But no, they want to create it there in Switzerland. First off, that's all a lie. That's a fake. Second off, cyclotrons don't tell us anything but what the scientists wish to see, because they calibrate their instruments to see what they expect to see. I mean, this is Simplest of logic that a fifth grader could figure out. We need to stop all science. We need to stop innovation. We need to stop DARPA's innovation of weapons. They're the one who steal all the good patents and turn them into weapons. And we need to concentrate on what is living and make sure that as we study it, as we research it, we don't kill it and then say, yep, it's what we thought. It's dead. That is the sum total of modern science. So in my opinion, the book that we've created on plasma, and first you have to believe there's telepathy. So if you haven't listened to the telepathy tapes, listen to that. That'll blow your mind. And then read this book on plasma. And when you read the book on plasma, understand it's the death of scientific materialism. It's the death of thinking that we're alone down here in a gigantic universe and we're nothing more than an insignificant grain of sand. It's the death of the scientific dictators that tell us what is settled science, and yet there's never been settled science in history. No such thing. There's just simply transiting theories. So we need better theories, and most of the new theories are focused on what, folks? Ethers and plasmas. So good day to you. I hope that you didn't get any burrs from you from going out into the weeds with me. I always know where the swampy areas are, so I avoid them. But I hope I didn't go too far. If there's anything in here you want me to talk about further, when I'm given free leash and allowed to just run like the wild hunt dog that I am, I'll address those questions. God bless you. And remember, hope is small, but it's impossible to kill. I stole those lyrics. And it's the last thing that was kept in Pandora's box. So no matter what you think is happening in the world, as long as you have hope in your heart, you're more powerful than any of it.